Welcome to lesson number 2. This is Syntax Cinema. Last time we learned that simple sentences are like a stick. One subject, one verb, and most of the time an object. Now we need to learn about compound sentences. Compound sentences are like a seesaw. One idea plus another idea. While a simple sentence has a single subject, verb, and object, a compound sentence has two. We call these subject, verb, object pairs independent clauses. So while a simple sentence has one independent clause, a compound sentence has two independent clauses. Let's look at an example. Jill sat high in the air on the left side. Jack sat on the right. Now the trick is trying to figure out how to best connect these two independent clauses. If I don't put anything, I've written a run-on. You may have been told before that a run-on is a sentence that goes on and on and on and on. And that can be the case at times, but what it's really about is whether or not you've punctuated correctly. Many people will just put a comma, because you've been told that you put a comma where you might take a breath. Unfortunately, this leads to another kind of error, called the comma splice. And the best way to think of it and to avoid it is to imagine that the comma is not strong enough to support your seesaw. Let's take a look at 3 ways to properly build a compound sentence. The first thing you could do is use a fanboys word. Fanboys stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So you would write, Jill sat up high on the left, comma, and Jack sat on the right. You choose the fanboys word that helps to make the most sense out of what you've already written. Another thing you could do that's a bit tricky but fun is make one of them dependent. This is where alubis might help you, which stands for after, as, although, when, while, until, because, before, if, since. This is just a handful of words that help signal when we're about ready to enter a dependent clause. So you might write, while Jack sat on the right, comma, Jill sat high up on the left. But what do you do when you like the phrases exactly the way you wrote them? Then you might think, I could put a period, but a period just doesn't feel right because you want the ideas connected. If you put a comma, it's a comma splice. If you don't put anything, it's a run-on. These situations call for the semicolon. Here's a great example. Lily playfully leaned in and stuck her tongue out at her dad. Semicolon. He was not fazed. Here's 2 important tips. 1, make sure that the 2 ideas are complete or independent clauses. You don't want any fragments when you're using a semicolon. And the second tip is do not overuse. The semicolon is a powerful way to make a point. If you use it too much, it loses its power. In conclusion, a simple sentence is like a stick. Period. A compound sentence is like a seesaw. You need to be sure and balance it properly. If you don't put anything in between the independent clauses on both sides, you have a run-on. And if you put a comma, you have a comma splice. So put a comma and a fanboys, for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Or make one dependent using avoibus, which is after, as, although, when, while, until, because, before, if, since. Or branch out and use a semicolon. The most important thing is to give it a little thought and choose the option that helps to make the most sense out of what you've written and adds variety to your writing. This is the end of lesson 2. Feel free to move on to lesson 3 whenever you are ready.